So we have a new CPU cooler test bench here at Kit Guru. The old 5950X system has been retired to make way for a new AM5 based platform. The new test system consists of a X670 Aorus Elite AX motherboard and an AMD Ryzen 9 7950X CPU. I am also working on an Intel test platform. You can see it behind me there. That will be coming soon, so future reviews will be able to bring you cooler data from both Intel and AMD platforms. But for now, the first new coolers to be tested on the new AMD platform are these from NZXT. So the old NZXT Kraken X and Kraken Z have been replaced with Kraken and Kraken Elite. But how will they cope with the heat from the 7950X? Let's find out. So these new NZXT Kraken AIOs are available to purchase now. They've been out for a few weeks, I'd say. These will be replacing the older Kraken Z and X. The old X had an infinity mirror design and the Z had the LCD display. The new Kraken and Kraken Elite both have LCD displays, but there are some differences between the displays, which is the only real difference between the Kraken and the Kraken Elite. In terms of pricing, so the Kraken starts from $119.99. There's an RGB version and a no RGB version. Basically, they're just different fans without RGB. The 240mm version is the one that starts at $119.99. There's a 240 RGB, no RGB, 280, and a 360. The 360 RGB will set you back at $199.99. And then the Elite. So the Elite is the one with the better LCD display. Again, you can buy this either with RGB fans or without. It's available in 240, 280 and 360 sizes. The Kraken Elite starts from $209.99 for the 240mm version, and then the RGB Elite 360, that is $259.99. As well as having RGB and non-RGB versions, there are also different colors, so you can have it in white. So this is the 280, the Kraken 280 RGB in white, and this one is the Kraken Elite 360 in black. Obviously the white one comes with white fans, black one comes with black fans. It's not easy to tell the difference between the two when you've got them on here. In fact, the only difference between the Kraken and the Kraken Elite is the display. So on the Kraken, so the non-Elite is a 1.54 inch LCD display with 240 by 240 resolution, 30 Hz refresh rate and 300 nits backlight. The Kraken Elite is the flagship model, so the display on the Kraken Elite is the better of the two. This is a 2.36 inch wide angle LCD, 640 by 640 resolution, 60 Hz refresh rate and 690 nits backlight. As I say, the Elite is the flagship model. That's why it's more expensive. The display is better. And also, not just the quality of the display, what you can put on the display differs between the two coolers. So on the Kraken display, you can put real-time performance up there, so CPU, GPU temperatures, things like that. You can also put web integrations such as connecting your Google Photos account, or you can just add custom images and have those displayed on the LCD screen as well. Exclusively to the Kraken Elite are custom or Giphy GIFs, so you can have your GIFs displayed on the LCD display. You can also have GIFs with a system information overlay, so you can have both on the display at the same time. Again, you can have things like your CPU temperature, GPU temperature, CPU load, liquid temperature, and everything like that. There's also the possibility to have an audio visualizer on the Kraken Elite display that will react to audio input in real time. So like the previous Kraken X and Z, these new Kraken and Kraken Elite are based on Acertec Generation 7 pumps. So I'm not expecting any increase in performance due to the pump and radiator. These are, when you strip the LCD displays off these are basically identical units to the previous Kraken X and Z. So as I say, I don't expect any improvements in performance to come from the pump, the CPU block cold plate, or the radiator. Both the Kraken and the Kraken Elite come with new NZXT F-Series fans, so this is a change from the previous versions. These are the 120mm black versions. They have RGB lighting, just a single RGB lighting zone on the hub of the fan. That's 120mm black, so you'll get those with the RGB 240 and the 360 versions. And then also, if you choose white, they are available in white, so if you order a white cooler, you get white fans. These are the 140mm versions, the F140s. Again, a single RGB lighting zone in the center of the fan, so basically the 120s and the 140s are the same fans, just a difference in size. Other features of the Kraken and Kraken Elite include a 27mm thick aluminium radiator, braided rubber tubing with articulating fittings at the CPU block end, a microskived copper cold plate. This cold plate does come with pre-applied thermal paste, it's just been removed for our own testing. These are compatible with all current desktop sockets from Intel, so LGA 1700, 1200, 115X, also all current AMD sockets, so AM5, AM4 are all compatible. Some high-end desktops are also compatible. If you want to see if your socket is compatible, head over to kitguru.net and check out the full written review. The full specifications of the coolers will be over on the KitGuru site. Tubing length is approximately 400mm, as I said, articulating 90-degree fittings at the end to help with the orientation of installation. Pump speed ranges from 800 to 2800 RPM. Pump speed and fan speed are both controlled in the NZXT Cam software, so you will have to install NZXT Cam to be able to adjust pump and fan speeds with the Kraken and Kraken Elite. Warranty is 6 years, which sounds pretty reasonable for an AIO CPU cooler. The fans are a fluid dynamic bearing fan, 4-pin PWM control, but as I say, it is controlled through the NZXT Cam software. You could technically use a 3-way splitter and connect these to a motherboard header if you wanted to. The 120mm fans, they have a speed range of 500 to 1800 RPM PWM control. They have a maximum airflow rate of 78.86 cubic feet per minute, maximum air pressure of 2.57 millimeters H2O, and a maximum noise output of 33.8 decibels. So NZXT kindly sent us 2 samples of the Kraken and the Kraken Elite. For the review, I'm going to concentrate on the Elite 360, which is this black one, but I will also add in the performance data to the charts from the non-Elite 280. So in the box with the Kraken Elite 360, you obviously get the cooler. You also get 3 of the 120mm F120 fans. These are the RGB versions, as I say. The only difference, I think, with the RGB and no RGB versions is the blade design. On the RGB one, it's kind of an opaque blade design with a single RGB zone, so obviously this opaque blade will illuminate with RGB. On the standard versions, that opaque blade will just be black or it'll be white depending on which cooler you get. There's also all the mounting hardware that comes in the box as well, so you get an Intel backplate for AMD installation. It retains the AMD backplate, so you don't need a backplate for AMD. There's also an AMD, AM4 and AM5 upper mounting bracket. This has been slightly modified compared to previous versions. There's a slight modification for AM5. There's also the Intel upper mounting bracket, so this does LGA 1700, 1200, 115X all in one bracket. There's also a couple of different standoffs. So Intel standoffs, these are slightly different again. I think for LGA 1200, 115X, use these and the thumb screws. But then for Intel 1700, you have some slightly different standoffs. For AMD installation, the AM4/AM5 standoffs have been slightly modified on the latest Acertech coolers. So instead of just the metal standoff that you used to get for AM4, it's slightly different now. You get a metal standoff, but you also get a plastic bush. And depending on whether you're using AM4 or AM5, you have to change the orientation of that bush. But it does actually tell you on the front on a little warning sticker. We've also got a RGB hub. So before with the Kraken coolers, everything used to plug into the CPU block connection. the RGB fans and everything just plugged into that, and it was controlled through the CAM software. For some reason now you need an RGB hub, so this is a 3-port RGB hub, so you get the same hub whether you get a 240, 280 or a 360. It has 3 ports, so you can connect up to 3 fans to it. You also get a USB splitter cable, because obviously the hub for the fans and the actual cooler connection, they both need to be connected to a USB header on the motherboard. So NZXT includes a splitter so that you don't have to use up both your onboard USB ports. If you have 2 on your motherboard, some motherboards only have one USB 2.0 header, so it's good that NZXT does include that. There's also a single breakout cable included, that's what NZXT call it. With the older Kraken X and Z, you actually had 2 cables that connected up to the CPU block. You had a breakout cable like this, plus a USB cable, but as you can see on the Kraken and Kraken Elite, it's just all in one single connection, which is designed to make the installation look a little neater and tidier. I suppose when you've got the CPU block mounted to the motherboard, just one connection there is going to look neater, but if you see, this cable does split off to various others. So there's USB, there's SATA power, and there's also a 3-pin header that connects up to the motherboard. So there will be some cable management to do as well if you care how neat your system looks around the back where all the cables are. And obviously as well, you've got to connect up this RGB hub. So there's a USB connection and a SATA connection as well. So I'm not sure that's going to neaten up the installation that much, but we'll see how it looks during the installation process. I'm not going to concentrate too much on the installation process in this video, because as I said, this is Asetek Generation 7. I've shown this installation so many times on CPU cooler reviews, it's almost become second nature to me. It's a very easy installation process. To install it on AMD platforms, all you need to do is remove the standard AM4 and AM5 upper mounting brackets, pop the 4 plastic spacers in the correct orientation for your CPU socket, screw the standoffs into the backplate. You have to obviously put the AM4 or AM5 upper mounting bracket on the CPU block, but it just pops in place and then twists almost like a bayonet fitting. The good thing about Asetek is it has multiple mounting points, so you can put this in almost any kind of orientation. So if you want the tubes at the side, you put it in one position like that, or if you want the tubes at the bottom, you just switch the orientation of the bracket. And one other good thing with this as well is you can actually rotate what's on the LCD display in the NZXT CAM software. So no matter how you have the CPU block mounted, what's displayed on the LCD display will be in the correct position. Once you've got the standoffs installed and the upper mounting bracket installed to the CPU block, you simply just have to apply some thermal paste. If it's the first time you're installing, there is some pre-applied thermal paste. Then all you need to do is put the CPU block over the standoffs and just use the thumb screws and tighten it down into position. Once that's done, just install the wiring, and that is basically the installation process. It's very simple. If you've installed an Asetek based cooler before, you'll have this installed in 5-10 minutes with the wiring. So it's really simple, really straightforward. If it's the first time installing Asetek, make sure you just check the installation instructions, but it's really almost impossible to go wrong. It's such an easy and simple installation process. Once you've got the cooler installed to the motherboard and connected up all the wiring and found a suitable place for the radiator inside your case, you can then install the NZXT CAM software. On the CAM software, you can control the fan speed and the pump speed. You can either select one of the NZXT preset profiles, or you can set your own custom fan curve so that you can tune the fan speed based on the noise levels you want. Also in the NZXT CAM software, you can adjust the RGB lighting on the fans. I've set 3 different RGB effects on these fans just so you can see the kind of effects that are available. Also, you can, if you want just to use a static colour. Another thing you can do in the CAM software is change the appearance of the LCD screen. So you can either have some information on there, system information like temperatures and utilization of CPU, GPU and things like that. Or you can have animated GIFs, or you can put up a custom image on the display on top of the CPU block. Very similar to the previous Kraken Z series, and to be fair, this display looks very similar to that as well. There isn't a massive difference between the old Kraken Z and the new Kraken Elite, but it does look good. It is a nice looking display. I like the look of the widescreen display on this Elite version. So that's what you can do with the cam software. The important thing now that we want to look at, obviously, is the performance and see how these new Kraken and Kraken Elite coolers perform on our new 7950X test system. If you want to see the full testing methodology, make sure you head over to kitguru.net. The full review will tell you all about our testing process and how we stress test the CPU to get the important performance data. So first, let's start by looking at noise output, as this will give us a good indication of performance based on noise. With the fans running at maximum RPM, the Kraken Elite 360 isn't the loudest cooler, but at 49 decibels the noise is very noticeable over ambient noise. With just two fans running at lower RPM, the Kraken 280 is 2 decibels quieter, which doesn't sound like much, but there is quite a difference in noise output between the two coolers. Sticking with fans at maximum RPM in this configuration, the Kraken Elite 360 performs very well, keeping the 7950X average delta temperature at 66 degrees C, which places the Kraken Elite 360 in the top 3 of our chart. The Kraken 280 isn't far behind either, with an average CPU delta of 68 degrees C. Normalizing noise output to 40 decibels, the Elite 360 is still trading blows with the top coolers, showing that it has genuinely good thermal performance, which is no great surprise as the old Krakens also performed well and the new F120 fans are doing a good job. However, the Kraken 280 performance tails off with noise normalizer, which is a little disappointing, but is expected of a 280mm unit. In the PBO test, the difference between CPU delta temperature is small, so the important metrics here are clock speed and package power. The Kraken Elite 360 again performs well, holding on to an average clock multiplier of 51.3 times at 72 degrees C, while handling an average package power of 200 watts. The 280mm unit isn't far off, with an average 51.2 times average clock multiplier and also 200 watt package power, which is good performance from both coolers. So there's a lot to like from the new Kraken and Kraken Elite coolers. Performance, as you can see, is good compared to the other coolers we've tested so far on this new 7950X test bench. I do like the look of the LCD displays on these coolers. The Kraken Elite is very similar to the previous Kraken Z, but the non-Elite Kraken 280, the display on that does definitely look like an improvement to me over the previous Kraken X series with the infinity mirror design. I do prefer the larger widescreen display on here, but obviously that's going to cost more. So the non-Elite is a good budget alternative to this larger display, and as I say, it's a good improvement over the old Kraken X series. RGB lighting effects look okay on the F120 fans, however I do prefer the older RGB fans that came with the Kraken X and Kraken Z. They probably looked a bit better quality, a bit more expensive looking fans. These do look a little bit cheap compared to those previous RGB fans, and although the RGB lighting effects look okay when you're looking at the fans head on, if you are at a bit of an angle you can see quite a bit of individual LED light bleed from those fan hubs, which isn't great to see. But overall they are really nice looking coolers. The RGB lighting effects are okay. The LCD screens both look very good. In terms of noise levels, the 360 is a little loud with the fans at full speed, but you can tune the fan speed obviously to your personal preference in terms of noise. The Acertec Gen 7 pump is very quiet on this test bench. You can just hear it, but this is obviously open and I'm stood very close to it. I guess in a case with the side panel on, you're not going to hear the pump noise at all, which is a good thing because sometimes the pump whine can be quite annoying and frustrating. In terms of the price, they are expensive because both coolers have LCD screens, but the 240 starting at £120 or thereabout seems like reasonable value. And if you compare price against other coolers from competitors such as Corsair and Thermaltake, the pricing seems to be in line with those anyway. LCD screen coolers are quite expensive generally. So I'd say if you have an NZXT themed system and you are looking for a new cooler, these might be a good option. But if you already have the previous Kraken Z with the LCD screen and the RGB lighting, this probably isn't a good upgrade. There's not a huge difference in performance between the two. Maybe these newer fans are giving a couple of degrees C performance increase, but I don't think it's worth upgrading from the Z to one of these new coolers. Maybe if you have the old Kraken X with the infinity mirror display and you want an LCD screen, then it would be worthwhile upgrading. Otherwise, it might be worthwhile checking out some other coolers that are on the market. There are cheaper alternatives with performance on a similar level as this. You're not going to get the same features, the LCD screen and things like that, but you can check out our previous reviews and make your mind up for yourself on that one. But overall, the NZXT Kraken and the Kraken Elite are good coolers, good performance. They look good and they would suit a system that has an NZXT theme. So thanks for watching this review of the NZXT Kraken 280 and Kraken Elite 360. I hope you've enjoyed watching this review. Let us know what you think of the coolers in the comment section. If you have enjoyed watching, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to Kit Guru. If you enjoy what we do here at Kit Guru and you want to help support us, you can always head over to the store and pick up some of the merch, or you can even subscribe to our Patreon. And as always, if you want to catch up on all the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website.